Hello, Jeanine. My name is Martin. I'm from Germany, and I had the pleasure to ski with your husband today for 4 hours. And I had the great pleasure of having dinner with you and your husband here at your beautiful house here in Salt Lake City. And is it okay if I tape that?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Okay, so as you know, I've been traveling through the United States, and we've had a wonderful evening together. And you told me that you moved from New York City to Utah. First of all, what were the motives for that move at the time in '95? I think.
Yeah, at that point we had little children and it was really difficult in New York City. Everything was so competitive and so fraught. And so George was looking for a place to practice law that was a little easier. And we originally flew through Salt Lake City to look in Alaska, to maybe move to Alaska. And after flying through Salt Lake City, I was like, well, okay, there are mountains here. We could ski here. Isn't this close enough? And so when we got back, he looked at law firms in Salt Lake City, and we ended up moving here. And it was just a great decision. It was a terrific place to raise kids. People thought we were crazy at the time, but it's so much closer to the mountains than Denver is, and it's just a wonderful place to live. I've been very happy here.
Okay, so now let's have a look at the political, religious climate here. Because in Germany we associate Utah with the Mormons or with the
Yes.
Latter-day Saints, LDS, what you call it here. So how does that religion shape normal, regular life?
Right. Well, as we were talking about this earlier, the LDS religion was very originally a collectivist religion. It was almost, not communist, but communal in terms of helping your neighbor and, trying to build everybody up. And I think that has been, that was the fundamentals of Utah, that everybody is in this together. So although now as we move forward, it's a very, kind of Republican state and there's a lot of support for Trump, I try to hearken back to the communal aspect of it and have some hope for the future of America, because things like, being a good person and being true to your word and committing to your religion still mean a lot in Utah. We're obviously not LDS, but I find that those values kind of permeate the culture here in a way that I find very positive.
Okay, so I learned that about 60% of the inhabitants or citizens of Utah are Mormons. Do they have a lot of political and cultural power?
I think that is true, and it's generally Republican power in the state legislature. But I have some hope for the future with, especially young Mormon couples who are getting more, getting back to the idea of we're all in this together, and have the hope for less stridency as we move forward in life, which is, a good thing. You want to have hope in life, that it's not always going to be capitalism versus collectivism.
Okay, I had the chance to talk to how should I call that, a person who has a sexual orientation. I think it's called binary or whatever.
Right. Non-binary.
Non-binary. And he or she told me that the state of Utah is banning books in schools. Is that correct?
Yeah, there's a lot of terrible laws going through the state legislature. And I personally am hoping that once the laws get through the state legislature and they get inscribed, that we can move back to kind of taking care of each other. So there are terrible laws as it relates to transgender bathroom uses, and terrible laws as it relates to other things. But I'm hoping that there's enough of an undercurrent of just taking care of each other and realizing we're all in this together, that once we get through the political hot points, we can return to more of a sense of this is our community and we want to make it better. And I'm hopeful.
Okay, that's good to hear. I mean, you have an upcoming election this year.
Yes.
And what strikes me as a foreigner, but very attached to America, is this divisiveness.
Yes.
This that people don't talk to each other because they're leaning towards towards the liberal side or the Republican
Right.
conservative side. So what is your expectation for this year, for the primaries, and
Yeah.
eventually for the two candidates?
I mean, I think this year is going to be terrible on a statewide level. It's very much a Trump world here. I'm more optimistic as it relates to the city, which is run by Democrats, Salt Lake City, and to a certain extent, Salt Lake County. So I believe that, Trump is almost something we have to get through our system. And so he's not a young man. We're going to get him through our system, and maybe some kind of rationality will return after that. I mean, that's what I have hope for.
Well, that sounds very positive. Do you think he's going to be the candidate of the Republican?
I think
Or
he
is
is.
there-
I think he's
is no
going to be
hope
the
for any-
candidate of the Republican. I think
Nick
there's.
Haley is not.
I think there's no hope, barring some kind of health event. I think he's going to be the candidate.
I mean, if you say that you hope he's just gonna go through the system in terms of age, Biden is is older.
That's true.
So does that hold true for him as well? That you'll get him through your system?
I don't know. I don't think anybody in America wants this Biden-Trump, rehashing, but I think that's what we're going to have to deal with at this point. So I'm just kind of steeling myself with the idea that, okay, that's the past. These are men in their 70s and 80s, and we're going to move through that to something which is, more all-encompassing and potentially better.
Well, but just taking for a moment the chance that Trump is going to be your next president. I'm from Europe, and I mean, America's still the #1 world power.
Yeah.
Just what do you think of America's role in the future if the case happens? I mean, the NATO, he wants to leave the NATO.
Yeah.
About the present conflicts, in Israel, with the Arab world, there's so many hotspots. What do you think is America's role?
I just mentally can't go there, because I do fundamentally believe that to some extent the independents hold the power across America, and the independents have shown that they're very turned off by Trump. So I have some hope that even if he is the candidate, and even if he has, the loudest, most intense group of people who are supporting him, that it will not be enough to win him the presidency. And that's what I hold on to.
Okay. Jeanine, thank you very much. It was my pleasure talking
Thank
to you.
you.
Okay. Great.